Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another episode of Leaders Unplugged. My name is Devin. This is our co-host Jackson, and today we are here with the CEO of Jerky Boys, Christian Koch. And today we're gonna learn a little bit about what it's like to be a CEO and all the tips, tricks, and maybe hard times of that kind of a journey. So I think the first overall question is, what got you into beef jerky?
Oh man, that's a long question. It's I should say it's not an easy one because it wasn't ever part of my plan to become anything in the food industry, nothing like that. I'm started out as a musician, and it just kind of took some time to figure out. But over time, I'm 27 now. Started this company about when I was 25, and music was just something that was just not really working out for me a little bit. So my older brother started a company a while ago, and I always saw him like with his business and what he did, and I was like, man, I kind of want to start something like that. I think that's something I could do, and I could probably figure it out. So I remember that my grandpa would always make me beef jerky when I was a kid, and I loved it. Everyone, all my friends, everyone just absolutely loved it. They're excited when grandpa would send the jerky. And so coming to, that decision, my older brother told me, he goes, when you're trying to find an idea for a business, like think of ways that, think of something that the market needs. You always want to fill in a space that the market needs. And so I was like, okay. So immediately I thought, well, Grandpa's Jerky, it's a great product. I love it. And, maybe I can sell it. So, yeah, that kind of happened with just, like that, really. I was just like, all right, let me try to sell some beef jerky for my, my grandpa's recipe. And yeah, kind of, that's how it started.
Yeah. So
Sweet.
you started as a musician.
Yeah.
What was the switch from how's that switch like from musician to go into business?
It was very different. I think business wise, like music really taught me a lot of stuff when it came to business and how business kind of works. But the music industry and just being an entrepreneur is very different in a way, but also kind of the same. So there's a lot of different things and aspects, such as, okay, you're selling this product rather than selling yourself as an artist. So there's ways I had to figure out. I think a lot of the music stuff, though, that I took in the music business and stuff, I was able to kind of transfer it over as well. But there's still a lot that I was just very surprised about. I was like, okay, so this is totally different, but it was again, it had somewhat of the same kind of concepts when it came to like selling a product or just getting a business or a brand launched. So it was,
Yeah,
it
for
was tough.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, and maybe this is a big question to
Yeah.
start out with, but what's kind of like the day-to-day lifestyle of a CEO?
Yeah. So I'm still figuring things out, to be very honest with y'all.
For sure.
I am still figuring a lot about. I have, thank God for my older brother. He has been a really good mentor for me. Just kind of, helped me through some stuff. But I would say the day to day thing is like you are pretty much looking at where's the business going. You're looking at how much can we spend, what can we do, how do we market this product. It's really just like figuring out literally everything of the business, every aspect. And I think the startup is probably the hardest, man, because you got to wear all the hats in the company. And I had some guy tell me, he's like, hey, can I get a hold of your marketing department? I'm like, you're talking to him. That's me. And so, it kind of just shows like there's so many different things. But when you're owning a company and starting your own company, you got to wear the hat for everything. So it's like until you can start getting employees, of course, and all that stuff. But it's really the day to day is just the whole thing. So
Yeah.
And marketing, that's an interesting point. How does marketing work? Like what's your approach to marketing in order to make it like successful?
yeah, so that's another thing I'm still figuring out. But I think just seeing, especially today's day with social media, there's so many things out there nowadays. I think it's a lot different than it used to be, where you can kind of see what other people are doing and what works for them, and how can I tie my brand into what they're doing. I think that's like a huge thing of like, I mean, social media is really about like trends, like there's a bunch of trends. So if something's trending, there's something working, obviously. Be a part of it, but tie your own brand into there. And I think that's where I've seen more of like the success on certain marketing things. And then when I want to do my own thing and make it own different, it's not as, crazy, but it still gives people that I've, caught their attention to be like, oh, this is their brand. But I think that whole social media stuff has really changed it a lot. And it's all about how things trend really these days.
Yeah, that's what when because I've heard a lot of people say, when you start a business, you want to have kind of your niche, and beef jerky is a fairly big industry in terms of food.
Yeah.
So what exactly, when you started your company, what was your kind of go-to niche that you wanted to focus on?
Yeah, I think it just being the fact it was a family recipe that I grew up on, and it's a generational recipe that we've had forever. And, I absolutely loved it again, like I said, So I think it's more so just being about that family background of, this recipe has been there for so long and now we're giving it to the public. We want people to try it and experience it. And so I think it's more so, and it's hand cut, handcrafted, really small business kind of oriented. And I think that's like the biggest thing is like these other jerky companies are manufacturing these things. Like they're just knocking these things out, pounds of it. And so I think that kind of separates us from a lot of other people is just like that family recipe as well as like the family is making it as well,
Yeah.
So that's, more so.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, and in like a business model like beef jerky, for example, what are some key takeaways or principles that you think help make a successful business model like that?
Yeah, so I think man, you gotta know your market more than anything. Who likes the product first of all. You're not gonna sell, beef jerky to someone that's vegan or something.
Right.
So you gotta make sure that you know your market. And I think more so again, it has to have that story behind it. I think that's important, but that's for everything. Everything has to have a story to it. How did it start? Where's it come from? Stuff like that. I think that's key to people capturing people's attention. So I would just say, know your market and know how your brand is. Find out what the story is behind your brand and make that into the brand itself. Is kind of what we've been doing. So, yeah.
Do you I guess what am I trying to say? When you have taken the time to build the company that you have now, what was a moment in that process that you're like, this is the right decision?
Oh,
or
man.
has there been a moment yet? Are you still getting to that moment? That's another.
I think I had one moment. Yeah, I think I have, and it was my first farmers market actually. First time we launched, first time I got my USDA approval, so I was actually legally able to sell it. And I remember taking it to the farmers market the first time, and I had my buddy there, and my dad was there, my mom, my sister, everyone. We're all there, and it sold out quick. People tried it and they bought it, and it sold out. And I was like, okay, I think we got something. I was like, there's definitely something to it because we just sold 50 bags. It's gone, and that really was a spark of okay. There's people like it too, so it wasn't just in my head, I guess.
Right, yeah.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, and being a CEO, what personality traits do you think help with being a CEO?
Mm-hmm.
But what are some traits that might inhibit it as well?
That's a good question. I think there's all kinds on that one. I think more so you definitely have to be I think a leader technically. Not saying that I'm I have a team of people that I work with, not really I would say work for me. We work with each other. But I think it's about being more so a leader when things are, if things are tough, you got to stand up and you got to figure out what to do. That's it's all on you at that point. And not only that, I just think you also have to be a team player. You have to respect what everyone else can do. And you can't do everything, even though, like I said in the beginning, you have to at first. But there's definitely going to be people that are better at you at certain things. So you have to realize that and let that kind of be what it is. Don't try to be controlling, I think that would prohibit some people of, hey, I can do this too, I can do this too. It's no, let the team do what they can do. And that's why we hired them in the first place, right? So I've definitely seen some people, not be too much of a team sport, I guess you could say. And that's why I like to say people work with me, not for me, So I think that's the main thing, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess this is kind of just out of order, but
Sure.
you did mention you wanted to be a musician at first.
Yeah.
Do you mind giving us just like a little backstory of your past and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
man. Yeah. So I was 12 years old when I first started music. Was like I got a passion for it. Ed Sheeran was my number one favorite artist of all time, and I was like, I want to do that. I went to his concert like when around that time, and I was like, I want to do that. And yeah, man. So I grew up, took a bunch of vocal lessons, and I was never really good at it either, which is funny. And so I took a bunch of vocal lessons, did all this stuff, and then I was 19. I moved here to Nashville, and I met a bunch of great people here. A lot of people that were part of the industry. Some of my best friends today are part of the industry, and that's where I want to do. I want to pursue music. So I joined a band here, and we played some shows. We got to do some fun stuff, man. We did music videos, all the fun stuff, and yeah, I mean that's like the most like a summary of it. But I mean, there's been so much, throughout.
Yeah.
From 12 to 25 is really when I was like, okay, I'm gonna put it on the backboard. But it was many years I did it, and there's so many things from songwriting to just so much stuff, man. But for the most part, yeah, I mean, it was definitely a dream of mine for a long time. But I think life can take you in different places that you never expect, and sometimes you just have to go with it, So
Yeah.
for the most part, yeah.
What is one success that you've had that you've learned a valuable lesson from? But what's also one failure that you've learned a lesson from?
Well, I can start with the failures because I probably have more of those. One failure let's start with that one because the success one's going to take me a second to think of. But the failure oh man, like I said, there's so many. Just because it's cliche, but it takes a lot of failing to actually get that one success. People say you fail 100 times, just get that one thing. I think the biggest failure was, probably the music, man. Probably something that I wanted to do my whole life. I spent so many years on it. And technically, yeah, I feel like I did fail at it. It's like I failed, I gave that up, and I started something. But at the same time, it taught me, just like I said before, nothing's guaranteed in life, man. That's like you gotta go with what's in front of you. And I think it just taught me that, nothing, like I said, is really guaranteed. So you gotta figure it out, and you will. But that's something that really threw me off with my life, was like from that into jerky business, totally two different things. So I would say that's probably the biggest failure. Success wise, man, I would say it's been partnering with my older brother and Dale Jr. And so I would say that those have been a successful thing where I looked at that, I was like, oh my gosh, like this thing's working, something's happening here. And I think it just taught me to be grateful in the moment and take in everything because all those failures turned into that, So that's kind of been the most thing for me as well. So
yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Oh shoot, and the question just left my head.
I got one. What?
You blanked too. Okay. So what was That's crazy. It's just completely gone.
So I got mine.
Okay.
What is something that you would recommend that someone does our age, like college students, young adults, if like first steps to get into being a CEO or a business position?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is don't be afraid to take advice. I think that's a huge one because I know at that age I thought I knew everything, and you don't, you learn that. But I think don't be afraid to take advice, especially from people that are doing it, or something like that. I would say more so, like, be easy on yourself too, man, because it's not easy. It's not going to happen overnight. It takes a long time. And like I said before, you're going to fail a bunch of times, but if you just keep going, you're going to find a success at some point. It's just a matter of time. So yeah, just, keep it running.
Yeah. Keep it running.
Yeah. If you could change one aspect of whether it's like recent or in the past, something, decision you made, anything like that, if you could change one thing in the past to maybe improve yourself in the future or something like that, what would that be? Preferably related to like building a company.
No, for sure. There's definitely a lot. Again, I'd say be patient. I wasn't patient at first. I tried to rush things, and nothing ever good comes out of rushing things. Honestly, I think I wish I could learn patience more because I wanted something so bad, and it's that initial drive of like wanting something so bad. You're trying to push things like to do it. Sometimes when you push things too much like that, you just kind of find yourself in a mess, and things will get aligned when it gets aligned. It's like you can't rush stuff. So I would say to my younger self, like, just be patient. Like, you'll figure it out. Don't try to rush things. I would say that's the most important. Yeah.
And how have you developed ways, like what ways do you use to like be more patient? Like when you find a really good opportunity, you're like, oh my goodness, let's get this done. What are some tactics or things you think about in order to keep that patience?
I still struggle with it sometimes too. I'm not gonna lie. But most importantly, I usually I'll just tell myself, man, like it'll come. Just like it's there. You're able to do it. Work towards it. Don't work and make sure it's don't think it's gonna come tomorrow. I used to be very much so like, I want this done tomorrow. I want to do this tomorrow. It's like, you kind of have to just tell yourself it will come. Just be patient and continue to figure out how to get there without trying to, I guess, jump the ladder on, don't miss your steps, So it's really about me talking to myself, honestly. Just like, calm down, Christian. You're going to be good, right? You're going to be fine. But yeah, that's the most part for it.
Cool.
What's your favorite thing about being in the business industry?
Freedom, I would say. I mean, I not that I experience it too much now, but I think like I do definitely have somewhat of a freedom if I'm out somewhere, like I don't have to clock into a 9 to 5, I guess. That's like kind of my point to that is like, if I am sick one day, I don't have to call someone and say, hey, I'm sick, I can't come in. Or, it's like, all right, I'm gonna have to take the day off. I mean, most of the time you don't, but it's like, if there's something else, I don't have to report to someone else is probably the best part. I love it personally, and that's like my favorite part. I never did good as an employee, man. I was not good, but I just didn't like being told what to do too much. But like I said, you gotta learn it. But yeah, man, that's definitely freedom.
So being a CEO, that puts you as a person people have to, look up to and refer to.
Yeah.
So how, especially because you're still probably in the process of building kind of your inner group of people who work for you. How do you go about making sure that you are being the CEO they need and making sure that you have the people that you need to get the job done?
I like that question. That's a good question. I think it's more so checking in. The people that work with me are like, I want them to be like my friends, to be honest with you. And that understand me, I think. It's like, okay, when it's time for business, it's time for business. But when something's happening or something like that, like, I don't want to be the person that's like, oh, there's the boss. You know what I mean? I don't want to be like that. I want to be like more like, hey, you can come to me for anything. So, it's like there's a fine line between that, of course, because you have to make sure that things are getting done. But I would say more so just like checking in, hey, how are you doing? And sometimes I like people give me feedback on how I'm doing, to be honest with you. It's almost like, hey, is there anything that you would want me to do differently? Like, it's almost like a customer service, but for the people. And so I think that's more so like, I like to just check in and like I said, just be a friend. And also, but again, there's a fine line. You have to also be a business partner or a boss technically. So I think that's like a big thing for me, man. I just want to be able to relate to the people I'm working with, and I want them to understand that, if they understand me. So I kind of look out for a lot of the people that are kind of my friends, I guess. That's like really where it comes down to. But that's being a small business, of course. I can't tell you what that would be like if, Jerky Boys became a huge manufacturer. I don't know. That might change. That answer might change. So that might be something else where it's like, looking at 300 people. That's different. I don't know. So it's like not that many people right now. So
Right.
I only have the answer for a
Yeah.
small, what's going on now. So yeah.
Yeah.
And for hiring people, what is it that you look for in employees?
Yeah, definitely trustworthy is number one, man. Because I think when it comes to, just handling certain business, you want someone that's trustworthy, that just present themselves very positive. I don't want someone that's goes to a meeting for me or something like that and is just negative, and doesn't bring a smile. I want some positive energy. I want them to definitely be trustworthy and just do the right thing. It's like, I'm sure when you guys were younger, you heard when no one's looking, still do the right thing kind of thing. It's like that. Look for people like that because, just because, again, it's like you don't want someone going behind your back on stuff. And that's like, that would not be fun. So, I guess,
for sure.
For sure. Yeah. So.
And going into a business, what's one thing that you did not expect that kind of surprised you?
Wearing all the hats, like I said before, like just being the person that, is marketing, selling, making the jerky, getting the USDA, like I'm the production manager, I like everything. That was the biggest thing. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And so, all the way to being your own accountant. So I guess that is it for sure.
Yeah. Well, just for clarification, did you ever go to college for business or anything like that?
No, I didn't, man. So when I was younger, man, I hate saying it like that. When I was younger, college, are you kidding me? I'm getting there, man. So when I was 18, I went to community college. I lived out in South Florida. I was born and raised out in South Florida.
Oh, okay.
And so I went there for about, I think it was half a semester before I dropped out. And I was like, nope, college isn't for me. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to pursue music, and that's what I try to do. And so, no, I didn't have any college degree, nothing like that. And it was just, it just kind of happened that way, I guess.
So for someone who's never gone to college for business, and for someone who is running a business, what tips would you go to the people who maybe just were never able to afford college and are still wanting to build a business? What tips would you give them?
Yeah, real world experience is huge. I think hands-on is a big thing. That's something I always kind of believed in. I think college is great for certain things. Like if you're gonna be a doctor, there's definitely some avenues that you can go down with college. But when it comes to someone that can't afford it, you can do it yourself almost. It's like you could figure it out. There's so much information out there with the internet and even TikTok or something. You know what I mean? So much information that you can get your hands on and see other people. I mean, even the people that are watching this now. They can hear this and they can be, oh, that's cool. I can relate to this, or I want to do that. That's something that I would say just, dive deep into the real world stuff and go get a job somewhere that you maybe want to run one day, or, go figure that out. If you want to open up, let's say an ice cream shop, go get a job there, figure out the steps, and then just go open up your own ice cream shop,
Yeah.
That's the most of it, so yeah.
Cool.
But,
in your day-to-day life, because I've always been told when you run a business, when you own a business, when you run the business and you're not just working for a business, you lose pretty much all of your free time. So one, how much of that is true for you? And I mean, that's depending on how true it is, how has it affected your lifestyle?
Yeah. There's definitely times where, like today, I'm late here because I was out everywhere today. And I think it's definitely true. They say, you put 14, 15, even 16 hours a day into starting stuff. I think I've gotten to the point where, like I said, I'm in a transition, so I've gotten to free up my time a little bit more. But in the beginning, oh man, it definitely took an effect. It's starting to slowly, I'm still doing everything like I said, but it's starting to slowly be able to give me that freedom. But in the beginning, like I said, man, you're wearing all the hats, you gotta do everything, and it really interrupted things. Like my friends would be like, "Hey, man, let's go out to this bar tonight." I'm like, "Yeah, I can't." Like, I'm trying to get this thing ready for the USDA to come in, and
Oh man, yeah.
or I'm doing that, and so it's that kind of does suck at that point, just because you're just like, man, I want to go out there and be with my friends, but it pays off later on. You're able to kind of do it later on, so just got to get through it, that first initial part, I guess. But.
Yeah. Over the course of your time being a CEO, what have you kind of, because in like big corporations, you could argue a lot of CEOs don't have the greatest reputation.
Yeah.
And some of it is well-deserved,
Sure,
and some of
yeah.
it is, I think, rumors and stuff.
Yeah.
As you being a CEO, what if you maybe learn is misunderstood, or something that you have tried to watch yourself to make sure it either doesn't happen or you do it more? Like, what are some things?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, because I think about that all the time. Just like how there's some people out there, just like, for example, musicians. Some of them are just not nice. They treat people with no respect. So I know where you're coming from with that. I personally just don't think I have that in me, man. Like, I like care for people probably too much, to be honest with you. I care for people too much because I know, like, there's just something, I don't know. Like, I don't think I'll ever see that. I guess when I'm stressed out, I can be a little mean, but it's more so just, I think people understand that to a point. I'll explain to them, hey man, like, I got a lot going on. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I apologize within 15 minutes of doing something. So that's how I am. But to keep myself from being that way, I mean, gosh, I hope I never come that way. I don't plan on it, but I would say just remembering where I started, what it took to do that, and the people around me that helped me get there. I think that's a huge thing. I mean, that should, keep me in check for a while. Just make sure that I remember that I'm not the one who got me here. It's not just because of me, it's because of people around me, and so that's kind of what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What specifically to you, what traits do you think that you have that have helped you get to the point where you're at? So what, like, personality strengths do you have personally?
Yeah. I think, like I said, being nice to people. So I guess just like, I'm able to communicate with people. I'm able to, like, if something's wrong or something, like, I can communicate that. Like, hey, like, what's going on? Like, I want to be able to make sure that everyone's good. I want to make sure everyone's happy. So I think that's like a big one for me. But also, like I said, when it's time to do a business or it's something's going on and it's like, this has to get done, all business aside, everything aside, like, this has to get done. I think I also can be a little, like, I wouldn't say strict, but more so like, hey, get it done.
Yeah.
It's like, you got, like I said, there's a fine line. You have to either be, you can't just be dancing on both sides all the time. It's like, you have to make sure that things are getting done. Because if you're nice all the time, nothing's gonna get done. And if you're strict all the time, people are just gonna leave you. They're not gonna want to work with you. So I think that's like the biggest thing. Find the balance, and that's just life in general, right? Find your balance and be able to balance that out. But be nice, but also get what you have to get done.
So cool. Yeah. I think overall, because you definitely seem like a pretty nice guy, right?
Thanks, man.
I mean,
I appreciate that.
like, even just right when meeting you and everything, like,
Yeah.
smile on your face, everything. And how would you say with your employees and just being, like, working with everyone a lot, how much would you say a joyful workplace changes how much gets done, or changes it just overall?
And you're saying just the efficiency of, like, being in a good
Yeah,
workplace?
so like having people who are not necessarily just like-minded, but people who come to work with a smile on their face,
happy
kind
to
of
go.
thing.
Yeah, man, we get a lot more done. I think again, that's what I'm saying is, like, when people are in a good mood, people are like, we blast some music, we're playing some country music, we're stacking trays and having a good time. It's very efficient because I mean, when someone's not in a good mood or someone's just, mad that, the boss did this to them or something like that, it's just very unproductive. People start to kind of, push back a little bit on things. It's like, I'm not going to do this. Like, not really, I'm not going to do this, but, oh, I'm going to take my time doing this. It's like, and that just could be out of spite, whatever it is. But I think when people are happy and they want to, they like want to work, they want to work with you. They want to do that. They want to see that vision come to life. I think that's like so important, is creating that atmosphere, because again, who wants to go and work with someone that's, down all the time? That's not fun. People don't like that. So again, it's just like the fine balance, man, so yeah.
What are some ways that you found that increase the positivity in working?
Yeah. When I guess when it goes back to that, it's not like I'm going around and like giving people a good job sticker,
Right.
like, good job. I would say just, that's a really good question, because I guess I don't really pay attention to that. I guess it's just because like when people are having a bad day, it's like, let them have a bad day. Don't be like, hey, it's gonna be okay. I don't like doing that to people. It's like, go ahead, be, if you need to be sad, you can be sad, but like, just know everything's gonna be fine. I guess just like, man, playing music and just like, let's get it going, it's like, that's pretty much it. I wouldn't say it's anything crazy. I guess just pumping people up, like, telling them thank you for their time is a big one. I would tell that all the time. Anytime someone comes in, hey, I want to let you know I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much. You are helping me out big time. I always make sure I thank. Someone actually told me that, like, you thanked me like 7 times today, dude. You don't got to do that anymore. I'm like, well, it means a lot to me, to see someone actually want to work with me like that. That's cool. I thought that was awesome. So being thankful, I think that's a little positivity that brings people like, oh man, cool.
Yeah. So, working in a super friendly environment and stuff has the positives for when everyone's, doing the job and stuff.
Yeah.
And this is maybe a touchy subject, and you don't have to go into extreme detail.
Yeah,
but,
you're good.
Being the leader of a company, you have to let people go sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And in an environment where, you're trying to keep things upbeat and everything,
Yeah.
how do you handle that yourself, and how do you make sure it's handled properly?
So I only had to do that one time so far, and it sucked, man. It sucked, because I love this guy. He's a great guy. But the truth to it, it's almost like the breakup. It's not you, it's me. I kind of told him, because like, it was just like his schedule, he couldn't come in on time, which time when it comes to, manufacturing beef jerky, you're on USDA time. So it's from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Anytime after that, you get charged overtime, like the company. And you have to pay your inspector. This inspector comes in every day. So it's like, that's a whole another thing. So he would come in a little late, and I was like, man, like, I can't keep paying USD overtime. And it really was to the point where I was like, man, like, listen, we can't keep doing this. Like, I won't be able to scale. I won't be able to employ you and employ someone else, or, whatever, if we keep doing this. I was like, is there any way that you can come in earlier, blah, blah, blah? He's like, no, man, I just can't, blah, 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 whatever reasons. And I was like, all right, man, well, like, we can't keep doing this. I'm sorry. Like, I freaking love you. You're awesome, but I just can't keep doing this. It doesn't make sense for me. And just kind of wish him well. But that was tough. I didn't like doing that. I even tried to offer him some, like, sales job too as well. I was like, okay, so instead of producing it, maybe you could sell. And that didn't end up working out either. But it's not fun. But you kind of have to, like I said, that's the borderline. It's like, you have to bring the business, you have to say, okay, this is what's going to help us grow. I mean, unfortunately. So, yeah, that's not fun.
Right, no, for sure not. I mean, what would you, for someone who has not reached that point yet, but maybe has started a business and will be getting to that point at some point, what would you advise them?
It is hard. Everyone goes through it. That's just a responsibility you took as a CEO, that you knew that's part of it. And those are the cons to it, but that is part of it. So unfortunately, that's kind of what you signed up for. And I think it's like every other CEO has to do it. Every other owner has to do it, whatever. And you kind of have to just figure out what is best for the business at the end of the day. So It's not personal, I think, but it's more so like, hey, I don't, just, yeah, it's something you signed up for, unfortunately.
It's definitely tough though.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That's probably the.
I just kind of get through it like that. I'm like, okay, this is part of it. This is part of the job.
Yeah.
So it's got to be done.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You have any questions? Or
No.
okay, no, I'm just giving you an opportunity. I feel like I'm asking a lot of questions, but
no, keep going.
So I'm assuming you set goals, right?
Oh,
Setting
yeah.
goals for today, tomorrow, and
I didn't always, but yes, now I do.
right. What's advice you would give on like what kind of goals you should set? Like, should people be always setting goals that are not necessarily reachable but are like high goals, or should they be setting more doable goals for or a mixture of those, or what are
both,
you?
100% both every time. That's the first thing I learned. Set 2 goals. Set one that's short term and set a long term goal. Because and then make a path with those short terms, get to that long term. Make that those short term goals should be your pathway to hitting that big one. And I think that's you gotta also look ahead, but look at what happens next week. So that's a big thing for sure. I like I said, I didn't learn that until a few months ago. My older brother was like, dude, you gotta figure out your goals. I'm like, okay. So that's kind of the advice he gave me, just that.
So you've been mentioning your older brother, how he's been a great advisor to you.
Yeah, man.
What is it that you admire most about your brother?
That he is, he's a good CEO, he's really good at running his company. I think the biggest thing I admired is because he was a former NASCAR driver. So he went kind of like me, like in a different scale. But how I went from like music to, a jerky company, he went from driving NASCAR to going into an air filter company, selling air filters for a subscription. And I admire him with that switch of how he switched it and made it into what he did today. And I think that's cool. That's kind of what inspired me to start Jerky Boys in the first place, to be honest with you. So that's the biggest thing for sure. It's like, it's cool to see that he was kind of on that same side. That's something I could relate to him about, so yeah.
So for someone who maybe doesn't have a mentor to look up to, like for you had a really close family member and he was kind of a few years ahead of you, and you could kind of watch it happen.
100%.
What would you say to the people who don't necessarily have a mentor, and like, do you know of any places to find that kind of stuff, or
online?
Yeah, for sure, right? Yeah.
That's the only thing I could think of. I don't know. I think like him, he had my dad. I also have my dad too. Like my dad is definitely, he's like the main dude, right? He's just like, the main guy. And my older brother learned from my dad, but also learned from the mistakes of my dad. And I think I'm the same way, where I'm learning from my dad and my older brother, but I'm learning from the mistakes of both of them, and what not to do and what to do. And those mistakes could honestly just be other things too. That could also probably help you when it comes to certain things. You're like, oh, maybe they did that right. It just wasn't good for them, But I think if someone's trying to find that, either, like I said, you're watching this podcast right now, you get to talk, hear people talk about it. But I also think that you go out there and try it, and you're going to have some mistakes. But I really think that people, if they want to put their mind to it, they can do it. And you're just gonna have to be the one to, just like my dad, set the stone of mistakes and let people learn from you. I think that's where some of the best people come out of as well, because they've learned that's like, you start learning a lot about that, of what works and what doesn't. I can only take in, it's just experience, So I would say go out there and just do it. Just like Nike, go out and do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, man.
I actually really like that answer. That was really good. I think the one big question we like to ask everyone in our interviews is if there's like one takeaway thing from anything we talked about, or just like a major thing in your mind that you've kind of that you always think about or whatever. Like, what's that one takeaway thing for the audience that you think would be important?
Don't be afraid to fail, man. That's like the biggest one. It's so cliche. You hear it all the time. I've heard that so many times. And I'm like, dude, like I don't want to fail. You know, like I don't like failing. But it's like the true, like it's so true. It's the most true. I don't know. Like that's literally been my life story of like you feel so much of things, and I think that was something that I realized. It's like if you're scared to fail, you're never gonna see a success. Truthfully, you have to fail, and they say 100 times before you actually see someone hit that one. And it can be more than that, but I mean the amount of times I've failed and finally hit something, I think that's like the biggest thing. I think that's the biggest takeaway for anyone. It's like don't be afraid to fail. Seriously, take those in, learn from it, and do it again. Period. That's it. That's all you gotta do. So
Awesome.
I think that
You have nothing left?
no, I don't have any questions. All mine were
right.
answered.
awesome.
Is there anything else that you think is important to share? It could be anything.
Yeah. The only thing I could say is like, you know, if you're starting a business, like I said, don't be afraid to fail, but figure out what kind of product or, you know, whatever it is, but figure out what the market you want to get in and how can you be different from that market? Like what, how do I say this? Like my dad always told me this all the time. And it's like, if there's something in the market that needs fixing or, you know, whatever, find that. It has to be repetitive, you know, like jerky. Jerky people consume. So someone could eat that product 5 times a day. I mean, I'd recommend not to, but I'd say like, you know, they could eat that. So find something that's repetitive. You know, it can't be a one and done. Like, hey, I'll sell you, I don't know, like this, you know, coaster right here. Someone has it, now they have it. It's done.
Yeah.
They're not going to repeatedly buy it. So find something like that you can repeatedly buy, and find the market that needs fixing. I mean, there's plenty out there, and find your little niche that you can get into and make it happen. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope all of you guys enjoyed today's interview. If you guys are interested in buying some beef jerky, you now know where to go. Jerky Boys has got his own website. You can also follow him on social media, all that good stuff. We got a lot more amazing interviews headed your way. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to subscribe or follow or whatever software you're on. You'll know what to do. Otherwise, we'll see you all next time.